Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. This is John with Tommy's Top Picks, here to bring you your weekly market update. I hope you guys are out there having fun. I hope those of you that are outside of the US are enjoying the new product. Very excited to see the secondary market fill and things start to move around on Facebook and otherwise. I'm just hyped for this set. I cannot wait. This will be the last week without box openings. We will be able to do some of those next week. I'm gonna have to decide how I want to do this because I like this data and consistent research, but at the same time, I know a lot of you enjoy box openings, so maybe I do 2 videos a week for a while until Uprising kind of runs out and we don't have any more patron requests for openings and I don't have any more need for the cards. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll do something. But I'm going to try to keep with this data component for the market updates because I think this is the most useful for letting people know about moving into and out of the markets. And boy, what a week we have this week. Definitely some more downward pressure on the market. I'm a little curious if we're going to see an equity drop like we did over here. If you recall, I marked this one out as special because we had this big blue day. And then sure enough, a few days later, I believe the the general markets in the world crashed a bit more, had really negative days. So if that holds true, we'll know that we have a leading indicator in the card industry. I don't think that's really what is happening this week. I think that was a funny coincidence, and it's always enjoyable to come up with these kind of theories. But I think in this case, this is probably people clearing up stock so they can have Uprising on the shelves. These are all US and TCG player base, so obviously that's a big marketplace for US LGSs, and they're all getting their new stuff on the shelves, including Double Masters is coming out in a week, and then this Friday, I guess the boxes for Uprising will be out. So there's a lot of pressure on LGSs to empty their shelves, get that capital, and get their shelves stocked up with the newest stuff that's exciting and coming out. So I really do think that's more of what it is. But hey, if we note it and we see that the markets crash after this, I will laugh very hard if next week we come back and look at it and say, yep, S&P definitely crashed right after this, crypto crashed after this, and then I'll have to, I don't know, use it as an alerting system or something. I don't know. It would be very weird if that's the case. So anyways, let's jump into it. First off, WTR is down 14%. This is for the unlimited boxes, down to $50 a box. That is super, super cheap. I think that's the lowest any box has ever gone. Anyone correct me if I'm wrong on that. Leave a comment. But I believe $50 a box is the lowest that's ever been posted. I'm pretty sure it's the lowest in my data. I don't think before I was paying attention to things and how far back this goes, because it's January of 2022, I think is my first data tracking on this. Before that, everything was pretty hot, right? Markets are hot. So I don't imagine that there was a $50 box before this period. So this is the cheapest box of, I guess, of Flesh and Blood at all, ever, right? $50 a box, pretty crazy. 14% drops, nothing to sneeze at either. This is a pretty big drop, so if you're looking to fill out your playset and you want some unlimited cards, this might be the time to do it. Just be aware the pools on the legendaries and such are kind of hard, so if you're looking for specific cards, as always, it's easier and better to buy singles than it is to buy boxes, but at $50 a box, I mean, that's a pretty good steal. All right, ARK down 20%, even further. It's still at $74 a box. ARK has been one of those ones that was elevated due to lack of supply for the longest time. I imagine that demand has kind of dried up over the last few months, and the supply is still holding up. I don't know if there's been a new wave. I've not heard anything about that. But it's curious that it's still higher than the $50, obviously, and most of these boxes. Actually all those unlimited boxes, but it's coming down by 20%. That's a significant drop down, worth keeping an eye on to see what happens there. We'll look at the data later. I have some comments on that. Yeah, I have a few things. I took notes from my last session to make sure I call out the things that we said, hey, let's see what happens next week. All right, so Monarch is up 24%. As you can see, we've had a lot of volatility over the last few weeks here. Highs, low, high, and this was Oh, there we go. I just proved myself wrong right there, right? Lowest box was 47. It was Monarch last week. All right. So anyways, you get the idea. A lot of volatility. We'll take a look at what the chart looks like and what that ends up doing. But 24% increase, that's a pretty big jump. Maybe hold off because as you can see from the history, we get lows and highs quite frequently on this product right now. So if you want to buy some Monarch Unlimited, hold off a week or two. It'll probably come back down just because of the way this chart has been acting and activating. Tales of Aria Unlimited boxes 52 is down 9.62%. Still low. I think we'll continue to see that. I don't know if it'll slump super low, but I don't see any reason or pressure for it to increase in price. There's only a few cards in there for Iyslander, and in most cases, people will just buy singles. They're not going to buy the boxes unlimited. Under cases, nothing of note, actually, for Unlimited. Everything kind of stayed flat. A little bit of drift down for the most part, but nothing crazy. First edition boxes, everything in the first few sets stayed flat, with Monarch increasing by about 2.5%. The newest stuff all declined quite heavily, so 10% on Tales of Aria, 17% on Everfest, and 8%, almost 9% on Uprising, which is surprising because I believe this number is breaking map now, and that is the TCG player listing, and it's pre-sale data, so that means that number is only for very select few vendors that are able to do pre-sales, which have to be on LSS's radar because they tend to be the bigger retailers that are using accounts on there. So I imagine people are going to get letters from LSS. I don't know. Pretty low. I have heard that this is happening quite a lot all over the place. So clearly the supply is there. I know people were worried with the multi-wave thing. I just don't see it being a problem at this time. Maybe it will be post-release, but I think the delay allowed them to catch up on supply and all that stuff for the US, so we're just seeing the effects of that on the market price. This is an interesting piece to keep an eye on just because of the 2.0. It's a new model. It's a new day. See how that ends up playing out. I am curious. First edition cases, another funky ARC thing. I'll talk about that in a second. Monarch is down 7.8%, down to 500 a case for first edition. That's pretty good. Definitely higher than the per box price, but not terrible. It seems like it's kind of catching up with the drip in the per box price by dropping a little bit, just a little delayed on that. Everfest is worth noting because it's a 4.8% or 4.18%, so it's close to my marker for a heat map. A marker, but not quite there. So we did the bold thing, and it looks like it's just drifting down a little bit more. It's that post-release kind of boredom. Everyone has Everfest. They don't need it. There's not a lot of demand. New sets coming, etc. On that front, new set continued to drip down on the case by 5.78%, $19 down to $329. That is just so dirt cheap. That's so dirt cheap. So very interesting to see how 2.0 is playing out in U.S. markets. So I was going to talk about this ARC thing because I think it's interesting to point out. It's at $9,000 a box. There's 3 listings. I did note, let's see if I can get it. Yeah, I did note this seller, Salty Whale, pretty sure he was the same guy who did the 12, this one and this one when it dropped down. I think it was Salty Whale. I'm like 90% sure this was the same seller that did these other ones and then pulled it off. So I would not be surprised if this pops off later. Either they're trying to manipulate data pools that are being pulled through this, such as mine, or they're just testing to see where someone will actually buy it. I mean, the problem is I don't know anyone that's going to buy a $10,000 case of cardboard sight unseen through TCG Player, right? Even if it was like 5,000, that's a little, I don't know how many of those get sold. We'll have to look at the volume of like Crucible back when it was up at like 3,000 and 4,000 a case. If they had, I don't know if they have that data that goes that far back. I don't think they do. Just curious, like where's the line? After $5,000 for a product, does your volume just dry up to nothing because it's such a big expense and it's sight unseen because of the way TCG Player does it? I don't know. All right. Quick overview of the best-selling cards. This time we're going to do it all of Flesh and Blood instead of just Uprising. Main things to note is what's popular. We got your Stormstriders, so it looks like there's a lot of Iyslander love out there. E-Strike, which actually I think works in Iyslander too. People have been talking about that in the hybrid version, but also in the Ninja Fi, I imagine it's pretty good. May even be good in Dromai, so, and it's dirt cheap, like $23 is definitely a low for that. So I think people are getting excited about different concepts and stuff, and E-Strike is just a general good card. Skullbone Cross Wrap, pretty exciting. That means Lexi players are probably coming up with some way to do some funny stuff. I think those new ice cards are going to be pretty baller in her, and I think Lexi is going to show some power with this new ice tech that we're getting in this set. Command and Conquer Black Border is $66, and Toma Fangdale. All these are just staples. I skip Shiana because I don't know why. I mean, I guess because it's dirt cheap, and it used to be like $200 for this one. It must be that, because it's a very hard to come by card. $63 legendary. It still seems pretty good, because there's probably just not that many of them. So maybe people are just kind of buying into them. Might be worth keeping an eye on that, buying some at 63. I don't know. Monarch is definitely hot. It's moving, I guess just because the price is so low. And the one thing I really wanted to point out, obviously we got the boots and the mask, which we kind of know is going to happen, is this Corsham. Why is Corsham moving? Is it because it's only $134? I mean, that is very cheap for a Rainbow Foil Crossroads of the Elements. Is it because the tech works with Iyslander? I know she does a lot of... There's one build that just does like constant fusing. So maybe Corsham's good with her. Maybe with Oldhim. Is that a thing? If you know why Corsham's hot right now, leave a message in the comments, because I'm really curious if it works with anything. If there's some fun tech and maybe some like pro level decks that are going to be featuring it soon. So they're doing buyouts to kind of play the market a little bit. Just interesting stuff all around. So let's go ahead and move on to the charts. All right, so WTR, remember last week we had this volatility straight flat, boom, we're down again, dropped further. Interesting. So will it keep dropping or get another plateau? We'll check back next week on that, but it was a very stable market situation, and now we see a decline for the first time in quite some time. Definitely notable. Same with these unlimited boxes. They're just dropping off a cliff. That's a pretty significant drop, you can see, as we've marked out on the heat map. So here's an example. I think we talked about this last week, maybe not with this product, but one of them, where the J is, this is where I would typically buy. I usually miss the bottom and I buy on the up, but I think I even said I don't trust these markets right now. They may go down further, and sure enough did. In a standard market, in a standard cardboard release cycle and that sort of thing, that would be a good place to buy. But again, because everyone's nervous in the market and investing is very tricky right now, I just don't trust my standard good market habits of purchasing. If it was something that I didn't have, like a new set, say of Magic or something, I really wanted to get it just to have one on the shelf sort of thing, I would still take the risk and not worry about the drop off, just because that's one of those things that I do. But if it's one of those things where I'm trying to optimize my buy, like I said, I'm nervous about the market right now. I think there's more downward pressure to be had, and I think we just go ahead and watch things as long as possible. Patience wins for Capital, that's for sure. ARC. We got a nice little uptick tail. All right, so this is very long, low, flat, and a little uptick. This is unlimited again, so that's interesting considering that the individual box prices dropped off like a rock. So I'm curious how this will play out over the next few weeks. I doubt this stays high, especially if the individual box prices continue to fall. But you never know. So the case is up right now. So interesting. I don't need any unlimited ARC, so I'm not really worried about purchasing it, but something to keep an eye on. Individual boxes, very good price. Best they've been in a long time. Maybe worth keeping an eye on that and actually buying in as it goes lower or reverses up. Actually, I'm curious if this is going to give us a V, a V bottom here and spike back up to a higher price. Just get kind of markets just get excited. There's a limited number of these very low price boxes that people are just trying to move. There's other people that need it and they jump on it, buy them all up, and etc. So that does happen. I just don't know if that's going to be the case here. Oh, crew, you make the weirdest chart. So it was fine. I was hoping we'd get this volatility to just fall off the end of the chart at some point, and then we got some more volatility. So 315, big drop. Again, curious if it's a V or if we stay down there. It might be a stepping down situation like we saw in one of the other charts last week. We'll keep an eye on how that goes. Box prices, slow drift down. This one's actually, it's a fairly reasonable soft curve down. I wouldn't call this a bottom yet, especially with markets the way they are. Go ahead and move on to Monarch Unlimited. Yeah, it's a pretty nice decline. Nice and soft. Nothing to worry about here. And our volatility of up and down and up and down and up and down that we see along the way here just seems to be continuing. Minor arbitrage opportunity. If these continue to climb and that continues to drop, then we'll get a major arbitrage opportunity. It's only $4 right now, not worth doing anything about. Monarch's been pretty fun recently, huh? All right, Tales of Aria. Yep, just softening like everything else, just kind of falling off the tail here. Everything just kind of doing that. It's falling over the cliff. Oh shoot, I forgot to reference some of the notes that I wanted to talk about. So let's go back real quick. One of the things I mentioned last week on Monarch was, would it snap back? And it sure did, didn't it? Right here. That's what we were worried about or wondering about. So definitely snapped back. So it did not continue off this cliff, and we're seeing that kind of range bound here on a downward scale. All right, so Tales of Aria. Slower, faster dip this week. Slower dip, right? So it slowed down, I think. And this one, maybe the same, maybe slowed down a little bit. So I think we're seeing the cooling, but the downward pressure is reduced. We'll see if it pops back up. Let's go to first edition. It's always more exciting anyways. So obviously WTR is boring, does nothing. Did tick down a little further. I mentioned last week that I wanted to see. I liked it going down nice and slow because it means people aren't paying attention. It's not a big noticeable thing. I hope it continues this $50 a week, every 2 weeks, something like that, until it gets down to a pretty low price, because then I'll buy quite a few probably. ARK. My God, this went nuts, huh? Alright, so this flatlined down here, which we were asking about last week, does this actually... Wow. This is crazy. Look at this chart. I guess it's just because it's just nonsense with this data here for the cases. It's just nonsense. You can't really draw any conclusions out of it. It's a shame. I really wish there was some volume on some of these older products, but I get it. Like, I'm not spending $9,000 on a single thing through TCG Player. So this, I guess the thing that we were worried about or wondering about was how did this flatten, or did it slow, or did it speed up its decline, right? Because we got from 1980 down to 1525. Actually went up. It ticked up a little bit. So I think we're hitting that kind of parity point on ARK first edition, where the supply and demand are finding a nice meeting spot, and so hopefully we stay in this range for a while, because I would like to pick up a box or two at least at this range. I think it would be worth it to have first edition ARK, some loose boxes. Maybe I can open them on the channel. That'd be kind of cool. It's such a gamble though, like $1,500 on maybe nothing in there. I'd rather just sit it on the shelf. Every time I think about doing something like that, I know there's lots of content creators that do that and don't mind wasting that money. I am just one of those people that it's got to be an investment. I can't just open that much money worth of product and be like, oh, well, I made nothing out of it. If it sits on the shelf, it maintains and gains value over time. If I crack it, it could be worth nothing. And I just don't feel comfortable with that. Maybe if they got down to under 1,000, I'd do that. I don't know. Maybe. I've definitely opened some stuff that's under 1,000, but at the higher end of it. So anyways, crew, flatline, calm like everything else. It did slow down. The decline is just sitting there, which is pretty neat. It did not step down. The curiosity was here, 2 weeks down. So would it continue to step down? It did not. So we have another flat. Let's see next week if repeat this pattern, down 2 weeks, down 2 weeks, down. Could be. Seems reasonable to assume that's possible unless markets change dramatically, which I don't expect them to. And then nothing on the cases box. Yeah. On the boxes. Nothing particularly interesting. Stayed up a little bit, but we're talking minor variance here. Nothing of great note. And then Monarch fell off its cliff, kept falling. So yeah, here's that J, kept going. Another flat line here, 500. Here's a nice uptick here. So again, historically, seeing this pattern, this is where I would buy. I may buy this because I don't have any single boxes on my shelf anymore because I opened those 2 openings I did. So unfortunately they're on the shelf, or I don't have any on the shelf, so I kind of want a first edition box. I have this feeling what I'm going to end up doing over the next year or so as these markets stay soft is get a single box of each product and put them in an acrylic case and just set them on my shelf in like a display version, because I think that's a cool looking thing, and with the prices declining as they have, it's very reasonable to get that done. Not extremely reasonable. $3,000 for a box of WTR is still a lot of money, but actually I don't need that because I already have a WTR. So it's just ARC that I need. That's reasonable. I can do that with all of them. So I will probably do that in the next over the next year. Maybe I'll take a picture and post it somewhere for you guys to see. Tommy can put it up on Twitter when I get it done. Tales of Aria. It looks like we're getting to that. We've talked about this before, where it's like the high volatility for a while, and then it kind of tightens. The band tightens. So call that the top and that the bottom of the new tighter band. We'll see if it sticks in there. But it's definitely something that's interesting. I'm curious in these post 2.0, like what kind of patterns we'll start seeing on product releases. But this kind of volatility is insane. I mean, that's kind of just like the waves of product coming out, the demand based on the gameplay, things of that nature. Boxes and cases. Case divided by 4. So huge premium sticking in here. I think that's a good thing. I think ultimately that's what we want, is to have the Gambler's Premium pretty solidly represented. Prices are ridiculously low, and I imagine they will continue to decline just because it's not a very popular set right now. Relatively new, plenty of supply. There's no expecting this to hit the bottom anytime soon. I just think the print numbers and all that stuff are going to be extremely high. So, Everfest. Nice curve. Look at that curve. That's beautiful. Probably in a typical market, this is where I would buy some. I'm not going to. I have tons of freaking Everfest. I bought way too much at release because I was really hyped. And I'm still really hyped, I'll be honest. I bought a bunch of Uprising too. But I bought too many. Like, I just wasn't paying attention to how much I bought. I bought too many, and I still have them, and there's no reason for me to buy more. So I'm not going to be buying more. But this would, in a normal market, be a good time to do it. I honestly think you'll see this go down further just because the markets are depressed, like we've said. And there's plenty of supply of Everfest, and it's the most recent set. So it's one of those things like, everyone got it. Everyone's going to get bored with it. There's the new stuff. Now, the one thing that modifies that statement, where I could be wrong on this, is this ends up being pretty hot because it helps every class. So if you're going to pick up a box or a new player or something, like getting Everfest is a pretty good thing to do, right? Because you get cards for every class. And they're pretty good cards. Like Everfest had a really good set. There's still some that are running around $15. So there's good quality power in there for all the different classes. As always, none of this is financial advice. So, it's just data talking about the markets. What's going on? I'm just a guy that slings cardboard. Don't take it as financial advice. Box and case divided by 4. Premium is sticking in heavily. Again, the individual boxes are way low. I see this going lower just because, like I said, there's no reason for it not to go lower. And then Uprising. This is my most curious one. I'm very excited to see how this plays out. So we're seeing it flatline here at 329 marker. And that's the Uprising cases, right? They flatlined. It can go lower, I believe, right? We talked about this last week. 20% off of 400 is what, $80 off 320, right? So it can technically go down to 320, I believe, and still be legal map. But then you have things like your bundles and all these other things that people are doing to get around map. So who knows how low it can go. It seems like there's plenty of supply too, so I don't think we have too much to worry about there. And they can kind of print it on demand, right? So does that reduce people's feeling of like this will go up because there won't be enough? I don't know. That kind of FOMO level of demand, I'm not sure. That's kind of what we have to see with 2.0 and how it plays out. Same thing happening here. The arbitrage went away. It wasn't much to begin with, so nothing to get too crazy about. I think we'll continue to see this like ziggy zag between the two post-release for a while until it stabilizes, and then we get that nice spread like we saw with Tales of Aria, where the premium kind of sticks and gets bigger for a while. Just holds. All right. Well, that covers it for today. I was just looking at my notes to see if there's anything else. I think we're good to go. If you have any questions or you want to talk to me about something, want me to cover something in the market, let me know. Leave a comment below. If you like the content, like it and subscribe. Tell other people about it. I'd love to hear from more people. It does seem that I was just doing some analytics on our channel. It does seem this content gets people to subscribe. So I thank you guys for that. I appreciate that. Our numbers are getting better every week. So I hope you're having fun. I hope by the time you're listening to this, you got your boxes in hand. I know I'm excited. I should have some boxes coming in the next day or two, hopefully tomorrow. That would be lovely. I am recording this the night before, as I have been. I think that's going to just be the pattern going forward. So unless I say otherwise, just expect that to be the case. Obviously, if tomorrow things change, that would be the reason why. Anyways, I hope you are having fun. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Let me know what you want to hear about. If I can do some more analysis or look into something that would make it more interesting for you. And I appreciate you guys a lot, and I hope you have a good one.